Welcome back, my name is Sharon. Thanks for coming back to watch another tutorial. Now this week we're going tropical, or what I would call tropical, depending on what type of the world you're from. You might not find these flowers tropical at all. But I'm using this week the Anthurium, beautiful green with a slight pinky coral tip to it. So I've chosen a green container just so that we blend in really well together. I'm going to use a small amount of Pampas grass just to help pick up on the corally colour on the end of the tip of the Anthurium. And I'm going to look at doing a design that I would refer to as modern or contemporary. But at the moment, there's such a large amount of floral designs available for us to recreate. It's hard to know what is modern, what is contemporary, and what is traditional. Because the design styles now that were quite traditional many years ago are back in fashion for weddings. We're seeing the curves and the crescents and the Hogarth curves coming back through. With the resurgence of Bridgerton on the TV, those very Georgian flower arrangements are back in fashion. And I tend to think of tropical foliage like this as quite a modern flower. It's bold and it's striking, and it's something that you would possibly see in a contemporary environment. So that's my sort of train of thought of why I think this flower is more modern and more contemporary than another style. Now my container this week is just an ordinary small flower pot. It's got a bit of grey colouring on the bottom, and then it's that lovely limey green colour. And this week I'm using Agrawool as my floral foam of choice. And you probably know, if you've watched any of my previous videos, the Agrawool, which is the environmentally friendly option, it's the one that composts down completely and is 100% natural, is a little bit of my nemesis. I find it quite hard to use. The foam doesn't hold together for me as well as I would like it to. But we're going to keep persevering with it, and hopefully we'll find the tricks of how to use it correctly. Now when it's prepared, you need to soak it so the ridges of the Agrawool are on the top. And that's how I've placed them in the design today. I've sat the two blocks on top of one another. So the Agrawool comes the same size as an ordinary block of floral foam. I've cut it in half and I've layered them on top of one another. What I do find is that it loses a lot of water as you're making the design. So you need to be quite mindful that this container is full of water so that it keeps the foam hydrated. I don't have any problem with the flowers not surviving in the floral foam. They seem to do just as well in here as they do in the ordinary green foam. So at least I'm doing something right. Okay, now I haven't sort of pre-planned the shape that I'm going to do with this arrangement, but I do have these gorgeous Cycas palms, which I think we've looked at in an arrangement before when I used orchids. But they dry really well, and as they dry, they go this beautiful biscuity sort of shade. At the moment, they're just a sort of sludgy colour green, but they will dry out a little bit more and go a lighter shade. If you want to, you can spray paint them. You could cover them in glitter at Christmas time, but they're a really versatile plant to have. And before they dry off too much, I'm going to manipulate them into a slightly different shape. So what I'm going to do is just bring the head down and create this circular shape with my leaf, and then wrap a wire around the bottom. So I'm attaching the leaf to the stem, and oops, it's a little bit fiddly. I probably should put my glasses on and then I'd be able to see what I was doing. I'm going to wrap that nice and tightly around the bottom so the leaf will stay in that lovely, interesting shape. And I'm definitely going to do it with two. I might do it with three, but we'll see how the design progresses. Normally when I create an arrangement, I've got an idea in my head of what I'm planning to do. Today, we're going a little bit off-piste. I've had the Anthuriums here. They haven't been used up in any shop orders, so I thought it would be a nice design to do this afternoon. So I've created these wonderful shapes, and that will dry in that position it is there now. It will lasts for ages. As long as it's not in a damp environment, then it's going to be fine. And what I think I'm going to do is cut the stem a bit shorter, bring them out sideways so that we can really see that circular shape within the design. And I'm thinking I'm going to place 2 of them together there. Now ideally I want to place these in at 2 slightly different levels so that they're not fighting one another for attention. So it's just a case of me discovering where I think they're going to be positioned the best. I'm going to put them alongside one another. Working with the Agrawool is a little bit harder because you need strong stems to go into the foam. By angling them at different positions, we create that 3-dimensional effect again. If I'd placed them alongside one another, the design would have become very flat. If we look at it from the side, you can see that one is angled more towards the back, one is angled towards the front, and it starts that depth and that 3D effect that I often talk about. Okay, so lovely bit of swirly movement on that side. This is what we refer to as enclosed space. On the opposite side, what I think I'm going to do is an unbalanced design, so not a symmetrical shape, but we're going to use some of the palms. And I've got a bunch of 10 here. They're still in the little cotton wool ball that they are delivered in. I've forgotten to remove that when I was conditioning them. So the palm leaves are softer. There's a little bit of movement in them because they drape forward really nicely. It's a different texture, a different colour, and I'm going to bring them in on the opposite side. So we're creating that asymmetrical balance. My foam is low to the container, so I don't have a great deal of space to put material in sideways, so I have to work from the top and allow the material to drape forward over the top. So if you don't have palms like I have, then you could buy a houseplant from a supermarket and cut that into smaller sections. Or you could use something like rosemary because that's going to give you a really nice curve. Traditional fern will work just as well. And anything really that's going to give you that sweeping movement over the container's edge. Now I'm just going to use up the small pieces of the fern, or it's not even fern, small pieces of the palm, and cutting it down, not to waste it, and using the smaller sections just to fill out that area and to help cover the Agrawool foam. So lovely bit of sweeping movement on one side, counterbalanced by those curves and those unusual shapes there of the Cycas Palm at the back. Now I've got a flower that you might be familiar with, you might not have seen it before. This is a Dianthus, so it's part of the carnation family. The part of the flower hasn't been allowed to develop which would have the colour attached to it. So the flower head remains this gorgeous shade of green. It's very, very tactile, smooth to feel, but has that very spiky look to it. I think this is probably the biggest head that I've ever seen. And what I'm going to do with this is place it really low on the floral foam. And I'll put a couple of pieces in before I turn it round. This is almost what we would refer to as basing. So it's basing or grouping, sometimes referred to as massing. And it's going to give me a lot of texture all accumulated in the same place. So we get that almost like a tuft of grass in the centre there. And because my Dianthus are quite large, I'm going to use 3 or 4 of them all the way around to give me that really solid block of colour there in the centre. If you can't get hold of this variety of carnation, then a plain coloured carnation will work just as well. So you could do the same effect with a lime green carnation. You could do it with a red carnation and really create some drama at the base. And straight away, I've got 3 or 4 heads in there and I've covered that centre section really well. And if we think again about textures, we've got a huge amount of texture. This busy, fussy texture in the middle, really contrast well against that flat leaf on the outside. The shapes are different, the colours are different, and of course the textures are really, really contrasting. Now, because we have that very heavy textured base, I'm going to be able to put my Anthuriums in, so that glossy texture of the Anthurium is really going to show up alongside that base work. And we're going to start with one on my right hand side, and then that colour is going to be drawn all the way over to the opposite side where the longest piece of my Anthurium is going to be, remembering that I don't have any height in my floral foam. Now what I'm going to do is bring the rest of the Anthuriums up quite high and leading off to one side. The piece of foam that I've got in my container is level with the container, so that's not going to allow me to put any materials in at the side because I don't have any height above the rim of my container. So this time my flower placement with my Anthuriums is going to have to come upwards because it's going to have to create height rather than width. Right then, let's take a third one up a little bit higher, taking my time to get it into the Agra Wool, and that position is working quite well there. So I haven't hidden the rounded effect of my Cycas Palms on the one side, and my Anthuriums are really large. They're not hidden by any other flowers, and to pick up on this pinker shade, I'm going to extend onto the longer side the Pampas grass with that beautiful colour, that corally pink colour. Now this variety of Anthurium is called Passio, and it was pure coincidence that it matched really well with my Pampas grass. Again, if you're here in the UK, you'll know that Pampas grass is having a huge resurgence at the moment. It's being used massively in internal installations. It's being used for wedding backdrops, wedding bouquets. And this is why at the very beginning I started by saying it's hard now to say, you know, what is modern and what is contemporary, because for those of you that have been flower arranging for many years will of course know that Pampas grass has already been used massively in the 1970s. So is it trendy? Is it new? Is it a new idea? If you've been arranging like me for a long time, you will have seen all the dried flowers before, and it will be nothing new to you. So I always find it difficult to decide whether or not a design is contemporary or whether it's a rehash of something that we've already seen. So what I've done now is created a little bit of drama on the opposite side with that coral colour. I'm going to stand to one side because it might be blending in with my jumper. But I've tried to create a bit of a statement piece, would look fantastic in a modern environment, you know, a contemporary hairdressers or a reception room. What I'm now going to do with my larger piece of the Pampas grass is I'm going to bring a bit of a larger plume onto this side because I feel we need to balance a bit of the colour. There's quite a lot of the pink on this side, but nothing on the opposite side. And what I now feel, I'm pretty much finished with this arrangement, and remember that I didn't have any plan for this at the very beginning. What I feel is that the style that I've arranged the Anthuriums in is a bit flat, and I need to bring a little bit of this colour out towards the back, and this will help draw your eye through to the back. I'm going to swap the shape on that one and go for a straighter piece. I'm going to bring an Anthurium a bit lower down, but towards the back here, because when you look at it then from the front, your eye is going to be drawn through to the back, and it will help create that three-dimensional look again. And that to me is much better. Now what I'm considering, I told you I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning, is bringing another Anthurium down lower here towards the front. And I've got 5, so I might as well use up the last piece. That can tuck quite nicely under there. It's contrasting colour and shape is really, really good. And I think I'm pleased. I think that considering I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning and there was no forward plan, And nearly all the time when I'm arranging, there is a plan in my head of what I'm planning on doing. But sometimes when I come into work and I'm filming for the day, so we try and film a group of videos in one day, sometimes we have flowers left from a job that we've done in the week that need using up. You know, and sometimes I have to think off the cuff and I have to think of a design when we've got the camera out. So I'm hoping you've enjoyed that one. That's my type of style of arranging. I love this, and I love very traditional style of arranging. I hope you've enjoyed. As always, please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to be notified so that you know when I've uploaded a new tutorial. Comment in the box below, let me know what you like, what you dislike, what you're really enjoying. And if you want to join me on my private Facebook group, then I'll link the name down below. But thanks for coming back, thanks for watching, thanks for helping my YouTube channel grow. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers, which I think is amazing. So thanks for watching. Bye for now. We'll see you all again very soon.